Okay, Brian Thomas, 55 KRC, on the radio this morning had some gentleman on there who I think was down at Occupy Cincinnati, representing the same movement as Occupy Wall Street. And the guy didn't really sound like he was very well prepared, so I don't know how that conversation started. I came in the middle of it, maybe even towards the end of it. But the guy was really not having a lot of success getting the point across to Brian, because Brian basically asked him, what are you asking for? What do you want? So I'm listening to it, and I'm getting mad at this guy because, like, why are you on this show? I mean, you obviously know he's going to ask you this stuff, because the same way that MSNBC and all of the left-wing channels, which apparently is everybody that's not Fox News, attacked the Tea Party. The same way that they did that at the beginning of the Tea Party specifically, trying to say that they were unorganized and didn't really know what they were talking about. They were just a band of, insignificance, right? Obviously, the right wing is going to do the same thing to what is clearly a left-wing movement. So, anyway, I went there and he just keeps, laughing at himself with that really bad fake laugh that he does. I mean, when he really thinks something's funny, it sounds nothing like the laugh that he does when he's just trying to get across his, I'm being condescending and laughing at this thing. I really don't, I think it just makes him sound bad. But anyway, so I've decided that I'm going to answer a couple of the questions. His basic question is, what does Occupy Wall Street want? Now, recently there was a list of 10 or 13 demands, and there were some really crazy ones on there. And I don't think that they really want those things. I think that they want to ask for those things and say, it's not any crazier for us to ask for everybody to have a $20 an hour minimum wage if Wall Street can actually expect to ask for the things that they get and still ask for. But anyway, so here's a couple of things. I think I've got at least two things that I'll talk about. The first thing I would like to see is campaign finance reform. And since we probably aren't going to be able to get Citizens United overturned, which is probably the most horrid bill ever, except for one little possibility. Because while a lot of people here probably think I'm a Democrat, I would never call myself one, nor would I call myself a Republican, as they're both a very shameful group of individuals as far as calling themselves a group. But I don't like the way that unions give a whole bunch of money to Democrats, because I'm not sure that every single person in every single union would give their money to a Democrat. So that's the one thing that Citizens United does. It gets all those people that were okay with large, political action committees and unions collecting money and giving it to their side, if you will, because they kind of had an advantage there. Well, that's not good either. So the one good thing is we need to get rid of all campaign financing that's not individual, either by checking that box on your IRS, tax return, or by actually giving, and everybody will have a maximum amount, like it's like $2,500 now, and that's it. You can give $2,500, and that's it. That way it's not about the money, it's about actually doing what the people want. And campaign finance reform is valid to the Occupy Wall Street cause, because Wall Street bankers are going to start really pumping a lot of money into politics on both sides, and it's just going to cloud all the issues to make sure that nothing ever gets done. Number two, a real quick thing. A lady on CNN, which this isn't Brian Thomas's fault, I'm just bringing it up, went out there and she talked to some guy who was out there, and he said he was upset about the bank bailouts. And she said, well, you do realize that the taxpayer actually made money off of that, like 10 to 20 billion. I'm not even going to question whether or not it's true. Let's assume it's true and it was 20 billion, the full amount. That's not the point. The point is they needed the bailout because their fingers were so deep in every part of our system that if we just let them die, like free market people are supposed to do, if we just let those companies all go under the way Bear Stearns did, we all would have went with them. And the Great Depression would have had nothing on what we would have went back to. Well, I mean, think Mad Max. Maybe the second one, because it was a little worse. That's what it would have been. Maybe I'm being a little overzealous with that, but so that's why we had to do it. But in return for that, what we were told is, so what we're going to do is we are going to make sure that this never happens again. That Too Big to Fail never happens again. that was embodied in what was called the Dodd-Frank Act, which in its original form, before it was ran through a god-awful filter of Republican stupidity and some Democratic stupidity or Democrat stupidity, would have done that, especially with the Consumer Finance Protection Bureau, which can never do anything until they appoint somebody to run it, which they just refuse to do. Okay, so there's the two things that we really want. It had nothing to do with the fact that we made money. We didn't bail out the banks to earn a profit. 20 billion and compared to our national debt is a drop in the bucket. So that being said, here's a big one that's directly related to Wall Street. Most of those people out there make their money on what's called capital gains, specifically long-term capital gains. And they get taxed differently at a preferential rate. Here's where I'm going to show you this. Let's see. Most people in America make their money, most people, through a salary or a wage. And here's how you get taxed currently. On your first $8,500, you get taxed at 10%. You can see it all here. Of the 34 grand from 8,500, you get taxed at 15%. 34 and a half to 83 and a half, roughly, 25%. 83 and a half to 174 and a half, 28%. 174 to 379, about 380, 33%, and everything over 380 is 35%. So it's kind of hard to put a dollar amount on that unless we pick a number. Well, let's just pretend we have two guys, that everything's the same. They have the same amount of kids, same amount of deductions, same amount of income. Guy A, the one difference is that he makes a salary or a wage. So when he made $379,150 taxable dollars, he paid all of that combined for a total of $107,015 out of that $379. That's about a 28.2% effective tax rate. That's what he pays in taxes. Is that fair? Is that not fair? Different subject. Let's go down and see what the other guy, who's exactly the same as guy A, only guy B here, he earns his money through long-term capital gains. Like Warren Buffett, maybe you heard of him? You remember that 0 to 8,500? You remember what it was up there for guy A? Yeah, it was 10%. This guy pays 0. 8,500 to 34 and a half. This guy pays 0. 34 and a half to 83. Okay, now we're actually going to pay. He pays 15. Huh. Wait a minute. Wasn't the other guy paying like 25 in that same rate? Look at that. 34 and a half to 83 and a half. 25%. 83 and a half to 174 and a half, that guy's paying 15%. Look at this, he pays 15% the rest of the way. Why? That's not fair. A guy that shovels, dirt all day, or maybe cleans dogs' pens all day, or maybe works in an office and really works hard to get his job done, whatever. Because he earns his money differently, he gets to pay all those high rates. This guy gets to pay 15%. Well, let's pretend that this guy also made $379,150. He's going to pay $51,697 in taxes. That's only 13.6%. That is unacceptable. In this country, everybody should be taxed in the same bracket system. A dollar earned is a dollar earned. So that is something I would like to see changed, Mr. Thomas. And I think that I've put it pretty well. I don't sound like some wild-eyed communist socialist saying everybody should, be brought back down to the same level, complete wealth redistribution, and all your little talking points and little trick words to make me sound like something I'm not. That's not fair. And I want it fixed. Another quick note. I don't think it's very fair, Mr. Thomas, for 3 weeks into what is the Occupy Wall Street protests, roughly 3 weeks, give it a couple days. I don't really think it's fair for you to expect them to have all their ducks in a row. Because you see, roughly about a month, 3 weeks into it, there was another time, there was this other group of people called the Tea Party who sounded pretty discombobulated at the beginning. And good old Fox News came in, it went to 4 different cities and got all those people together. And of course they brought their political professionals with them, like your Karl Rove and your Frank Luntzes, all those guys, and got them in there and helped them get their message right. Of course, Dick Armey came in from another side. He's not affiliated with Fox News. And of course, the Koch brothers came in with their money as well and really helped the Tea Party shape their message into what they really wanted. But some of it is, I'm sure, what the Tea Partiers really want too. So I really don't think it's fair for you to do that, especially because I know that if that was Lawrence O'Donnell, and that was Rachel Maddow, and that was Ed Schultz, and that was Al Sharpton, from MSNBC, and it said MSNBC, Occupy Wall Street, and they went to all the different places, I'm pretty sure you'd be calling foul on that. But I guess we'll just have to wait until that happens.